Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
In the intellectual firmament of the early 18th century, a period defined by the titanic philosophical and mathematical struggles succeeding the work of Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, certain texts emerge as pivots upon which the future of a discipline turns. Brook Taylor's 2713 publication, Methodus Incrementorum Directa Inversa, stands as a paramount example of such a work. It is a book of profound, almost startling, intuition, a collection of mathematical insights that would ultimately provide a universal language for approximation and analysis. Yet, it is also a work of its time, born from the crucible of the calculus priority disputes and characterized by a formalistic ambition that outpaced its logical foundations. To examine the Methodus Incrementorum is to dissect a paradox of foundational text whose most famous contribution, the eponymous Taylor series, achieved its celebrated status as a rigorous theorem only through the intellectual labor of subsequent generations. This essay will argue that Taylor's work, for all its initial lack of formal justification, fundamentally reoriented mathematical practice by creating a bridge between the discrete and the continuous, offering a powerful, generalizable tool whose full implications would animate the course of analysis for the next 2 centuries. The genesis of the Methodus Incrementorum is deeply embedded in the specific intellectual currents of Augustan England. Brook Taylor was a figure of considerable standing, a fellow and later secretary of the Royal Society, and a ferocious advocate for the primacy of Isaac Newton in the acrimonious debate with Leibniz over the invention of the calculus. This allegiance was more than political, it was profoundly methodological. Taylor's entire mathematical worldview was filtered through a Newtonian lens, favouring geometric intuition and the concept of fluxions, Newton's term for rates of change. His book was, in many respects, an attempt to systematise and extend the methods of his master. The very idea of a method of increments grew directly from the soil tilled by earlier mathematicians working on problems of interpolation and finite differences. The Scottish mathematician James Gregory, in the late 17th century, had already derived a discrete version of the series expansion. Newton himself, in his Principia and other writings, had developed powerful interpolation formulas based on successive differences to approximate the paths of comets and other celestial phenomena. Taylor's great contribution was to perceive a deeper unifying principle. He sought to create a calculus of finite differences that would stand as a discrete parallel to the infinitesimal calculus of fluxions, and in doing so, to forge a link between them. This ambition was set against the backdrop of continental developments, where Johann Bernoulli and his brother Jacob were exploring the power of infinite series with a vigour that spurred a competitive urgency among the English mathematicians to demonstrate the fecundity of their own Newtonian tradition. The Methodus Incrementorum itself is a compact but dense volume, presenting its ideas with a brevity that can feel almost cryptic to a modern reader. Its core intellectual project is the development of a calculus for finite differences, what Taylor calls increments. He establishes a systematic notation and derives rules for operating with these differences, mirroring the rules of the differential calculus. The true centerpiece of the work, however, appears with a certain lack of fanfare as a corollary to a proposition concerning the relation between a function's successive values. This is the celebrated principle we now call the Taylor series. In Taylor's formulation, which uses the language of fluxions, he asserts that a function's value at a future point can be determined from its present value and its successive rates of change at that present point. To render this in more contemporary terms, he proposed that a function f evaluated at the point x plus a small increment h could be expressed as an infinite sum. This sum begins with the value of the function at x. The second term is the increment h multiplied by the first derivative of the function with respect to x. The third term is the square of the increment divided by 2 factorial, all multiplied by the second derivative. This structure persists, with the general term being the increment raised to the power of n, divided by n factorial, and multiplied by the nth derivative of the function. What is remarkable about Taylor's presentation is its profound intuitive leap and its simultaneous lack of rigorous justification. He derived the series by assuming a function could be represented as a power series in the increment, and then determined the coefficients. More critically, he offers a vanishingly small consideration of the conditions under which this infinite series actually converges to the function it purports to represent. The questions of convergence, divergence, and the magnitude of the error incurred by truncating the series concepts that are the bedrock of modern analysis are left unaddressed. This cavalier treatment of the infinite was common in the early 18th century, an era of bold formal manipulation where the power of a new method often overshadowed questions of its logical security. For Taylor and his contemporaries, the utility of the series in solving problems was its own best justification, and solve problems it did. Taylor immediately demonstrated the power of his new tool by applying it to some of the most challenging scientific questions of his day. Perhaps the most famous application within the methodus is his treatment of the vibrating string. This was a pioneering effort to derive the mathematical form of a string in motion, marking one of the first significant attempts to model a continuous physical system with a differential equation, though his solution contained flaws, and was later superseded by the more complete work of D'Alembert and Euler. It represented a monumental conceptual step, reducing a complex physical phenomenon to a problem, in pure analysis solvable. By his new method, he likewise applied the method of increments to the problem of the center of oscillation, a crucial topic in the development of dynamics and clockmaking. In a move that highlights the breadth of his intellect, the book also contains a significant treatise on the principles of linear perspective. This might seem a curious inclusion, but it reveals a mind obsessed with the application of mathematical principles to describe the world. He used his geometric and analytical insights to establish the concept of vanishing points for any set of parallel lines, placing the artist's practice on a firmer mathematical foundation. In each case, the Taylor series acted as a unifying engine of analysis, capable of transforming diverse problems into a tractable, algebraic form. The legacy of the Methodus Incrementorum is as complex as the work itself. Its immediate reception was muted, and the priority dispute with Johann Bernoulli over the origin of the series cast a long shadow. Bernoulli claimed to have possessed the idea earlier, and the ensuing squabble, fueled by the larger Newton-Leibniz conflict, likely obscured the work's importance for a time. The true influence of Taylor's series began to swell in the decades following its publication, as mathematicians across Europe recognized its immense potential. Its full power, however, remained latent until the analytical machinery was developed to handle it with the necessary rigor. The first crucial step was taken by the Italian-French mathematician Joseph Louis Lagrange in his 1797 masterpiece, Théorie des fonctions analytiques. Lagrange sought to rebuild the foundations of calculus entirely on the concept of algebraic series, eschewing the intuitive but logically troublesome notions of infinitesimals and limits. For Lagrange, Taylor's series was the absolute cornerstone of this project. His monumental contribution was the derivation of a precise expression for the error, or remainder, when the series is terminated after a finite number of terms. This Lagrangian form of the remainder transformed Taylor's series into Taylor's theorem. It was an expansion, with a quantifiable error term, a tool that could be used with logical confidence. One could now determine how many terms of the series were needed to achieve a desired degree of accuracy. The final piece of the logical edifice was put in place by Augustin Louis Cauchy in the 1820s, working in a new, rigorous spirit that defined 19th century mathematics. Cauchy developed a formal theory of limits and convergence for infinite series. Within his Cours d'analyse, he provided the strict conditions under which a Taylor series converges to the function it is derived from. With Cauchy's work, the transformation was complete. A brilliant but intuitive insight from 1713 had become a rigorously proven, universally applicable theorem, a pillar of mathematical analysis. This evolution also saw the introduction of an important special case by the Scottish mathematician Colin Maclaurin, who extensively studied the series expansion centered around the point zero. Though this Maclaurin series is a direct application of Taylor's more general principle, Maclaurin's articulate advocacy and application of it cemented its place in the curriculum. From this solid foundation, the applications of the theorem exploded. Leonhard Euler wielded it with breathtaking virtuosity, extending its use into the complex plane and connecting exponential and trigonometric functions through his famous formula. In modern science and engineering, its utility is almost impossible to overstate. It underpins the perturbation theory used in quantum mechanics to approximate solutions to otherwise intractable equations. It is the basis for most numerical methods for solving differential equations, from the simple Euler method to the sophisticated Runge-Kutta schemes. In computer science, it provides the local quadratic approximations necessary for powerful optimization algorithms like Newton's method. Every time a calculator computes a sine or a logarithm, it is essence evaluating a truncated Taylor series. In conclusion, Brook Taylor's Methodus Incrementorum Directa Inversa occupies a unique and vital position in the history of mathematics. It is a work of transition, authored by a brilliant Newtonian loyalist who aimed to systematize the calculus of differences and, in the process, uncovered a principle of astonishing generality. The Taylor series, presented with an 18th century confidence in formal manipulation, was an instrument of immense power whose true operational parameters were a mystery at its creation. It was a key that could unlock solutions to problems in dynamics, physics, and even art. Yet the locksmiths who would perfectly file its teeth and explain its mechanism were Lagrange and Cauchy. They provided the rigor, the remainder term, and the convergence criteria that elevated Taylor's brilliant series into a fundamental theorem of analysis. Taylor's legacy is therefore a shared one. He was the great intuitive discoverer, the one who first glimpsed the universal pattern connecting a function to its derivatives at a single point. His work stands as a powerful testament to the nature of mathematical progress, where a flash of profound insight can illuminate a path long before it is paved with the stones of logical proof. The book's very title, Method of Increments, serves as a fitting metaphor for the advancement of knowledge itself, a slow, step-by-step accumulation of insight, where one generation's bold conjecture becomes the next generation's unshakable foundation.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.